Goodnight Gorilla by Peggy Rathman. Underneath the words are the logos for the Wisconsin Deafblind Technical Assistance Project and the Ideas That Work. Narrator Scott Kinziorski. Interpreter Keith Burasek.
Hello, I'm Scott Kinziorski. I'm deaf, a white man with a beard that's salt and pepper in color. I have a black shirt with a white t-shirt on underneath. There's a blue background behind me, and I'm here to share with you the story of Goodnight Gorilla, written by Peggy Rathman. Once upon a time, there was a man, a zookeeper, who was taking care of the zoo animals. It was nighttime. He was making sure all of the animals were safe and sound in their cages. He had his flashlight and he was checking on each one. The first animal he stopped at was the gorilla's cage. Good night, gorilla. In the gorilla's cage was a mouse chewing on a rope. As the man walked past the gorilla's cage, the gorilla took his key, snatched it away, and let himself out, along with the mouse. And they followed the zookeeper. The mouse was bringing along a banana. Zookeeper continued to check on all the animals. He didn't know he had two animals following him, the gorilla and the mouse. The zookeeper's next stop was the elephant cage. You could see the elephant's big trunk coming out of his cage to smell the air. Good night, elephant, said the zookeeper. But behind him was the gorilla and the mouse. So the gorilla let him out too. And so now there were three. Their next stop was the lion cage. The lion was busy chewing on bones that he had had for a snack from the day. As the man went past the cage, the gorilla opened it up with the key he had taken. And then there were four of them. The next stop was a hyena cage and a giraffe cage. Good night, hyena. Good night, giraffe, said the zookeeper. And off he went. But behind him was the gorilla with the key, opening each door and letting them out to follow along. The lion, the elephant, the mouse, they all came along. The next enclosure was the armadillo cage. Good night, armadillo. And just like the others, the gorilla had let out the armadillo too. So then all of the animal friends were following behind the zookeeper. The gorilla, the mouse, the elephant, the lion, the hyena, the giraffe, and the armadillo, all following behind. They all followed him home. Each one entering the house. The gorilla, the mouse, the lion, the hyena, the giraffe, the armadillo, all following behind into the zookeeper's bedroom. Each animal laid down in the bedroom. It was dark. The zookeeper was tired. He let out a big yawn. Oh. It was a long day. The zookeeper turned to his wife and said, "Good night," and turned off the lights. Then every animal said good night. Good night, good night, good night, good night, good night, good night, good night. In the dark, only could see was eyes. The zookeeper's wife turned on all the lights and saw all of the animals and the gorilla who started it all. The mouse, the elephant, the lion, the giraffe, the armadillo, the hyena, the mouse, they were all there. They needed to go back home. So back to the zoo they went. The elephant, the lion, the giraffe, the hyena, then the armadillo, the mouse, they all followed the zookeeper's wife back to the zoo. The zookeeper's wife led all the animals back home and said good night, except the gorilla, who had the key. He still had it. Followed the zookeeper's wife back home, along with the mouse. The zookeeper's wife got back into bed. She was tired too. Oh, good night, dear. Good night. And then, as those lights went out, the mouse and the gorilla crawled under the covers. The mouse and the gorilla were in between the zookeeper and his wife in the bed. As they snuggled in, the mouse said, "Good night, gorilla," but the gorilla was already out. Good night.
The logo is displayed for the WESP-DHH Wisconsin Deafblind Technical Assistance Project, WDB-TAP. The logo and disclaimer for the Ideas That Work is displayed and reads, "The contents of this presentation were developed under a grant from the U.S. Department of Education, H326 T180044. However, those contents do not necessarily represent the policy of the U.S. Department of Education, and you should not assume endorsement by the federal government."